Driving the car is really amazing. It handles really well. It's set up really well. The front suspension being a 1930s Ford suspension. It handles unbelievably for between 40 and 90-year-old parts on the car. It's very solid. All the old original parts handle remarkably. The car drives perfectly straight down the road. I can take my hand off the wheel and it just goes straight as an arrow, even with that old 1930s Ford dropped axle front end on it. It's fun to drive because it's so low to the ground and it's so lightweight. I'm Eric Goodman from Highland, California. We're here at the Redlands Airport with my car, Volksrod. Volksrod was a 1970 Volkswagen Bug that I built with my friends in my Volkswagen club. It took me 5 years to build. I started it in 2009, completed it in June 2014. The car is 100% custom. Everything on the car we either handmade or built, with the exception of the interior and the engine. It has a Porsche 914 motor with a 911 fan on it. My vision was to build a Volksrod or a hot rod that was a custom finished Volkswagen to represent what a hot rod in the 1930s would have looked like. That was the style and the look I was going for. We had a drawing originally that we drew, and we pretty much stayed true to the drawing, with the exception of I changed the wheels and split the windshield and changed the color, but the basis design for the body is exactly what I had envisioned. When I go to a car show, normally will have dozens of people lined around it trying to figure out just exactly what it is. People that know Volkswagens can usually tell from the hood that at some point it was a Volkswagen Bug, but then they see the front suspension and the rest of the car and they try to figure out just exactly what it is. I've had people ask all kinds of things. Was it a PT Cruiser? Was it a kit car? Was it hand built? Was it something I bought? And so it's really fun to tell them all about the car and get their reaction when they find out that it was a 1970 Volkswagen Bug that was modified to look like a 1930s hot rod. So this is Volksrod's engine. It's a Porsche 914 with a 911 fan. This motor was built for performance. It's got a webcam and hydraulic lifters in it. The original 914 engine would have been a mid-engine in a Porsche. It would not have had this fan on it. This fan's off of a Porsche 911. We cut the motor down, put the 911 fan on the 914, and then handmade and built the custom fan shroud that is one of a kind because it actually has its own internal cooling system for the oil cooler, which sits under here. This pipe goes back and goes under the back compartment area. There's fans that come through and go down onto this to cool the internal oil cooler. Most of them would run an external oil cooler, and on a 911 Porsche this would just be similar on both sides. It wouldn't have this setup. So everything you see here was custom handmade. So on the motor I'm running two 40 Weber carburetors, oil breathers, which is what you see here, that go down for the oil. Everything inside the engine compartment had to be handmade to get this motor to fit into this car. So all the engine tin, all the metal around the engine, everything that you see here was all hand custom made by us to fit the engine into the car. So the deck lid on it was off of the 1968 Volkswagen Bug. It originally had louvers here like it did here. We removed the louvers and we Frenched in the license plate frame, which you can see here. We widened the rear section of the car. It has additional metal added in here. You can see how much wider this is in the backside. The taillights are off of a C5 Corvette. Corvette would have 4 taillights running in this direction. We turned them this direction and then put LEDs inside of them. So all the body area on the car, this was all hand built, formed. This would have originally had a big fender that came out here on a Volkswagen Bug. So the fender was removed and all this was handmade. The body itself is actually longer and wider than the original Volkswagen Bug was, and it's more rounded. This would have been much flatter on original Volkswagen Bug. You can see how round the body is here, all finished off. No windows. This is all fiberglass cap on here, so there's no windows on the car. The doors are suicide, where they originally would have opened the other way. Handmade hinges. This is from 1964 Studebaker. All handmade rocker panels. The front section, this would have originally been the fender that came out here on the car. On the Volkswagen Bug, we turned the fender on the inside, which you can see from here, and then finished off all the metal work on the front section. The car was extended 10 inches, so the original wheel set was back here. You can see how far it was moved out to the front section now to give it that real sleek hot rod look. In the front section, we have a 1930s Ford dropped axle. All original parts, everything that's on the car I picked up at the Pomona swap meet. 30s dropped axle, the wishbones, the spring, which we cut down, 55 Chevy spindles, 68 Corvette Camaro disc brakes. The only thing that's a new part on here that you see is not original is the Speedway shocks. The front beam extender, when we extended the car, we came off of the original beam from the Volkswagen, which is here, and handmade the hangers for the spring in the front, which is what extended the car. This was the original beam on the Volkswagen where the tires would have been. We extended that out 10 inches and hand built the front suspension hanger, which is a spring hanger on the front that holds the original 1930s Ford dropped axle spring. Had to extend all of the steering mechanisms and the steering rods, the turn rods and the radius rods. Everything had to be extended to fit the 10 inches on the car extension. Okay, so the front section of it, as you can see, looks somewhat stock in the hood. This was off of a 68 Volkswagen Beetle. It would have originally had a big Volkswagen emblem here that was removed. The hood is actually a suicide hood. I'll walk around on this side and I can show you hood open, which is a very unique feature. I've never seen another car like this. So we engineered the hood so it would open reverse and has an internal skeleton that holds the hood together. This is the original compartment where the gas tank would have been sitting in the stock Volkswagen Bug. We now have a gas tank installed here. Here you can see the original fenders that were on the outside of the car. This is just inverted in, so this would have been out here. We took them off and welded them on the inside and made it so that's how you get that internal look, and then added the sheet metal to it. The hinges. The hood latch here is off of a C5 Corvette. That's what the mechanism is for the hood. All the drip rail was removed. Everything was custom done here on the front section under the hood. All finished off with the upholstery, matched the interior. So the windshield is split. I've never seen that on another Volkswagen Bug. It's two pieces, split windshield. The original car was a coupe, not a convertible, so we cut the roof off. This is the original section that would have been on the top of the Volkswagen Bug. We lowered it down from 21 inches to 11 inches. Handmade all of this metal that you see here and split it in the center, and then put two pieces of glass to make it look like an original, older split windshield. So the exhausts that we built on the car are side pipes. They're functional. I loved side exhaust. I wanted them on this car. What we did was we took the manifolds off the original Porsche 914 engine. We flipped them from left to right, which made them, instead of going out the rear, made them come out the front. We're running an 1.5 inch pipe up under the car, coming back around to 3.5 inch pipe on the side. We hand custom made all this, and it sounds great. Okay, so the interior, these were stock 1970 Volkswagen seats. We had to cut the seats down to get them to fit because of the body. Had them upholstered in the black and the brown to match the car. I still have the rear seat in place, so if I want to remove the tongo cover and take it off, it can become a 4-seater. If I put the tongo cover on, then it's a roadster. The carpeting is Mercedes-Benz carpet, all custom made for the car. The gear shifter knob is pretty unique. This is actually off of a cane that my grandfather had, and after he passed away, I took his cane and took the top brass part and made it my gear shifter knob, so my grandpa will always be with me.